So next up, we've got the topic of the identity that saved me was killing me. Our speaker is Joel Yee, sales strategist, Army veteran, and CEO of the Year for 2023. From military service to leading multi-million-dollar teams, Joel's journey is a powerful example of grit, purpose, and high-performance leadership. Welcome, Joel.
5 years ago, I was 24, married, financially successful, and already a recognized expert in my field. Yet, I was standing on the edge of my balcony in Gastown, Vancouver, 37 floors above the ground. Not so much because I wanted to die, but because I didn't know how else to stop the pain inside. On the outside, it seemed like I had everything people chased: the fame, the success, the award, the money. But on the inside, I was crumbling. And it wasn't that I hated life that I wanted to jump. It was more so I didn't know how to continue performing in it every single day. There was this pressure to always win. There was this pressure to never fall behind and be perfect. And I didn't know how to cope with that. Have you ever felt like no matter how fast you run, the world just seems to run faster? And for me, that night, I didn't fall, thank God. But something inside me broke, and it gave me the start to everything I never knew I needed. Growing up, I was the perfect Asian son. Only child from Malaysia, and I was perfect. Like, I had straight A's, I was a teacher's pet, I was very obedient. But, friends, that perfection had a cost. And the price I had to pay for that cost was my authenticity. I was blessed enough at 16 to move to the United States from Malaysia as an international student. And I'll be honest, it wasn't just to pursue a new opportunity. I really wanted to escape the pressure, the stress, and the pains from home. And I thought a new country would mean a new me, right? But then I realized that fitting in meant never disappointing anybody, never showing weakness, and never failing. 3 years later at 19, when I enlisted in the US Army, and also eventually commissioned as an officer, it only further amplified the point. And guess what the point was? Failure wasn't an option. Perfection was survival. I became this human highlight reel. If you've seen the Instagram, the Facebook posts of the best moments in people's lives, that was me. You could have given me an Oscar, but for the best performance in someone else's life, just not mine. And I'll be honest, it worked for a while, 24 years, until I got married. Until someone looked me in the eyes and said, Joel, I want all of you, not just the version of you that performs. And then it hit me like a 15-ton Mack truck, because deep down I didn't have a version of me that wasn't performing. I never knew what that meant, because I was so busy chasing external success, fame, validation, I had no inner self to come home to. Like a Mack truck. There you go. I began falling apart in private. Insomnia, panic attacks. It got so bad to the point where I was even physically hitting myself just to feel something real. And I kid you not, the cops were even called on me once in Vancouver. Not because I was dangerous to anybody else. I was just drowning in a war inside myself, and I didn't know how else to scream. Friends, this was the truth for me. Success, it hadn't saved me. It only sedated me. I was alive, but I was really numb. You know what the worst part is? The worst part is, I didn't know how to describe this pain. It was just really loud, really heavy, and really endless. And I wish I could tell you all that, oh, I just read some books, I took a vacation, and I meditated, and then magically everything got better. But you and I both know that's not how life works. But what I found was healing isn't a hack. It is a slow, brutal process of unlearning. I think the best analogy would be, imagine trying to unclench a fist you've held tight for years, right? And trying to let go. But here's the good news. Every bit of pain you release, it creates space for something new, something truly beautiful, something that's you. And the more I tried to fix this anxiety, this shame, and this numbness inside me, I realized I wasn't broken. I was just disconnected. Disconnected from my emotions, my body, and all the parts I locked away at a young age just so I could survive. Right? I locked them away deep inside. And through stillness, through therapy, and through drawing closer to God, I could finally stop asking myself this question: what do I need to do to be loved? But instead, and the question I urge you to ask yourself as well, what would it look like to finally come home to myself? Then came November 2023. I enrolled in this program called Money and You. It was marketed as a business mastermind. And I thought I was going to learn about marketing, about sales, and obviously money, duh. I was excited, right? I went to the event, I was like hoping to make a bunch of money. And then there was an experience there that broke me in such a way that honestly, my life was completely changed from that point on. There was this exercise where I had to hold a stranger's hands. And I was paired up with a partner who was in his 70s and he had grandkids, but we never met to that event. We barely spoke at all during those 2 days. And as I was holding his hands, there was this soft, somber music playing. And it was quite awkward, you know? It's just holding someone's hands, looking into the eyes, right? And I was sitting there really confused, like, is this a business event or am I doing some woo-woo kind of stuff here, right? And in the words were saying things like, this person across from you is you. Their fears are your fears. Their goals are your goals. They are you. And at first, it was the most awkward. I was so exposed. I didn't know whether I was going to laugh. But then guess what happened? I started crying. I started crying because for the first time in life, I felt seen without having to perform. I felt seen without having to perform. And as I looked into the stranger's eyes, I didn't just see them. I saw myself and what it meant to be flawed, beautiful, hurting, and human. That day I learned something. Vulnerability, friends, isn't a weakness. Vulnerability is courage, it's connection. Vulnerability is what it truly means to be human. A couple weeks later, I was home, and I just had another massive fight. It was 5 times in 5 years, my wife and I almost contemplated divorce. I was feeling like a failure. I was so worthless. I can't keep my marriage together. I'm not good enough as a man. And I was just crying in my office. And then in the corner of my vision, I saw him. I don't know why. I saw him. I saw my 8-year-old self. But he wasn't standing like that. He was sitting in a corner with his hands wrapped around his knees. He was crying to his knees, and he was just there crying. And I don't know what prompted me. I got up, I walked towards him, and as I walked towards him, he looked up at me, as if surprised to see for the first time that someone noticed him. And I got up right beside him like this. I put my hands on his head, and I said, Joel, I'm so sorry you've been here this whole time. I'm so sorry you've been always alone, and I'm so sorry I didn't know how to take care of you. But I'm older now. You don't have to be alone anymore. I can take care of you now. As soon as I said those words, it was like this light bulb moment switch, right? I come to Jesus moment, but I just felt this sense of peace and warmth fall into me, and he looked up at me and just started smiling. Genuine, happy smile. So from that night, healing wasn't this conceptual thing anymore to me. I realized what it truly meant to heal. It became real because that boy, well, this boy, that was invisible, unloved, unworthy, he finally had someone to believe in him. Me. So from that day, I stopped outsourcing validation. I stopped looking for external ways to feel better. I drew closer to God. I reconnected. I started praying more. And I just felt this safety inside of me for the first time. So, friends, have you ever worn a mask just to survive? All right, have you ever chased goals you didn't truly want? Just because you were afraid of what would happen if you stopped? Tonight, I want to talk about resilience. And the question, how do you build resilience in a world that seems to just keeps on running faster? I'll tell you what not to do first. First, you don't hustle harder. That's not how it works. You don't numb yourself and pretend that it's peace. And you definitely don't put on this perfection as armor and calling that leadership. That's not what resilience means. I have this 5-step framework that I want to share with you tonight. And it's very simple. And it's actually a cycle. So it kind of repeats every time you need to heal your pain and trauma. And step 1 is to just face it. Right? Sit with yourself, sit with your pain like it's an old friend. Learn to confront it. Step 2 is to speak it. You can tell the truth out loud, even if your voice shakes, right? And confront that pain. And step 3 is to forgive it. Because you can hate the version of you that you built to survive, but you can look forward to changing and becoming better. Step 4 is to reconnect. For me personally, that meant reconnecting with God, prayer, but it could also be reconnecting emotionally and the parts you locked away. And lastly, and I think the most important part, is to remember to lead yourself and those around you softly. Because what I learned is that softness isn't weakness. Softness is actually power. It means you're choosing presence over perfection. So through it all, I learned that resilience in this world doesn't need to look like outperforming, grinding, hustling harder, right? To become the person, the lady, or the man you want to become, you have to become someone that the chaos can't shake. Become unshakable. And I believe these tools will help you achieve that. I also know that resilience means returning, right? Returning home to you. And maybe if you're tired, and you're tired of breaking inside a world that you keep running and the finish line keeps moving further and further, maybe it's time to stop running. Maybe that finish line was never out there all along. And in reality, resilience is the courage to stop running and remember you were already enough. Thank you.